This is the Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. At any time, you can email the program, messiahhour@gmail.com, or you can send a donation via PayPal to israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Again, israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Does Star Wars have the ability to give messianic prophecies? Here to discuss this and more is our favorite rabbi from Tzfat, co-author of the book The World of the Ger, Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Ari. The force is with you, as always.
Yes, it is. So before we begin with the particulars about Star Wars, let's talk about Hollywood's general power, because people say Jews run Hollywood. They talk about its influence not just in the United States but globally. And I want to know if Hollywood actually has any particular power.
Hollywood has as much power as an Ari Lewis Facebook rant.
Well, that's a lot of power then.
That is the most powerful thing.
Yes.
It's true. And I want to just explain how consciousness works in light of this, yeah? Because it sounds pretty ridiculous that Hollywood can change our lives and Ari Lewis's Facebook page can change our lives.
But it can. It's obvious.
But it can. Ari gives the interview with a Swami hat, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Yes, it did.
So the word is just consciousness, and social media is part of that consciousness. This is really why there's Twitter, because Ari Lewis can change the world with Twitter. So can anybody out there.
Yeah.
That is the power of social media, that everybody has a voice. Once you get your voice, which in Kabbalah is called malchus, you can do anything. And I mean literally, this is how Abraham changed the world. It's called Metatronic consciousness. The idea is, we say in the Midrash, Moses had a staff in his hand, and the staff, they say, was Metatron. But the way that the Kabbalah teaches, if you call that staff in Moses' hand a pen, we call that a pen, Ari. So which is more powerful, the pen or the sword. When you make something a brand, it becomes powerful to the point where you can reverberate consciousness in the world. What's more appealing? A gas station in America called Bob's Diesel, or a Shell station, Ari?
Shell station. It's got the branding.
It's got the branding. You're like, wow, thank God for Shell. I feel so safe and secure now. You can get a hamburger at Jed's, or you can get a Big Mac at McDonald's.
Hey, Michael Jordan eats Big Macs. They must be okay.
They must be. I jump even higher when I wear his shoes. I swear on it. I do. I think I almost slam dunked yesterday.
Yes, a Gatorade with all its sugar must help me somehow.
In Israel, I think you can get a little of this, Ari. I'm sure you've gone to a gas station and bought a bag of Doritos once in your life in Israel.
Sure.
I want you to, next time you do it, don't eat them out of the bag. Open the bag up like four corners spread out. And you know what you have in front of you?
What's that?
A ration.
A ration?
It's a ration of food.
Oh, right.
You have like 7 Doritos in there. It's a ration.
Yeah.
It's not, when you look at it from that perspective, it's a ration. But you are believing it's not. It is wonderful food. It is Doritos, the sour-sweet combo green bag in Israel. And it's the power of marketing is not mumbo jumbo. It is a spiritual koyach. It's a spiritual power. Branding is everything. Now, there's kind of the cheesier branding in the world, and there's also a spiritual, real branding. There's, Abrahamic, if you want to call it branding, when Abraham did his thing thousands of years ago. But social media it makes branding possible. Number one. Number two, social media exists everywhere. When you go to buy your Big Mac, you are branding yourself to all those that see you in the store. How you're perceived is up to you. How far you want to reverberate is up to you. Because you can make such an impression that you can shock the world. That's really how Messiah comes, at some point in the redemption process. Now, the reason why these things work is because the world is actually Kabbalistic and not I'm gonna make up a word right now, Ari, like my Shakespeare talk last time.
Yeah.
Physicalistic.
Physicalistic. Okay.
It's not physicalistic. It's spiritualistic. And the reason why it's an important thing is because consciousness is in our creation. The science is looking for gravity. I'm going all over the map here, but I want you to connect these dots when you listen to this. Scientists are trying to map gravity. It's like Morpheus, what if I told you there is no gravity? Because really there isn't. Maybe in the physical model there is. But in the ultimate reality, there's consciousness. And consciousness in a more physical form is called wisdom. Wisdom is infinite. There's no shortage on any one thing, an infinite amount of wisdoms. Now, that's like that. I'll give you an example. On Shabbos, you cannot use a nutcracker to open up a nut. Is that correct, Ari Lewis?
Yes, that's correct.
But what if I use a hammer?
I believe that's okay.
But can I use a hammer to drive a nail into a board?
No.
So what I've done is I've taken a hammer used to strike nails into wood, and I am reinventing it. I'm calling it a strange nutcracker. Is that loud? Yes.
Yeah.
Consciousness has shifted. When you learn the laws of Shabbos, this is what's so amazing about the laws of Shabbos. I have changed reality on Shabbos when I use a hammer to crack open a nut. I literally have redefined the spiritual Hebrew letters. It is no longer a patish, a hammer. It is called whatever God calls it in Lashon HaKodesh and God world, it's called David Katz's new nutcracker for the next 30 seconds. But it literally has changed reality. And to make it allowable, you call it a shinoi. You changed it. In fact, how do we say you change your mazel? Shinoi, change your name, change your place, is a change of mazel. We changed the mazel of the hammer. I can prove it. Ari, have you ever used a hammer in your life?
Sure.
Is there a way that you hold the hammer, strike the nail into the board generally?
Yeah.
Now, since you're going to crack open a nut, you try to basically to pull like a Karate Kid when you do a nail into a board, right? Like one hit, boom, bah. You'd love to have the perfect hit, right?
Yeah, it takes less time that way.
Right. But you're probably going to change your attitude a little bit on the nut. You don't want to pulverize the nut. So you've already changed the mazel. See, I'm watching you, Lewis.
You're not the only one.
At a party, if I watch you walk in with your white tank top shirt on, you got the hammer and the nails, we see you like, wow, this is Ari Lewis. He's amazing. He's an amazing carpenter, this guy. Who knew? But then now you come on Shabbos with a hammer. Do I have that same image of you in my head? No. Now I'm saying, wow, this guy knows Hilchos Shabbos and he's super creative. He's a really spiritual guy. See how the whole mazel changed?
Right. Okay. Very understood.
Because I see you differently in every way. So by changing the DNA spiritually of the hammer, my attitude about you has changed. So now if I see you coming in on Monday hammering a nail, I may ask you a question about Hilchos Shabbos now. Because you changed my perception. You understand? You changed my world. You rocked my world by changing the DNA usage of the hammer. You follow?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now take that concept and imagine everything you look at and see. Just look around everybody listening, you too, Ari Lewis, look around your room right now. You just lock your eyes on one thing. You got it?
Yep.
Okay. Do you see its primary function, whatever it is you're looking at?
Yeah.
Now imagine a different function you could do with that thing.
Okay.
Now change another function that you can do with that thing.
Okay.
This is infinite. You can do this on everything, anything. The more wisdom you gain, see, I didn't know that you could put a house on stilts with an old stack of books. But once I learned that, I say, hey, I own a library too with a bunch of old books. Good thing. Now I can make a house on, stacked on books. Like MacGyver it, right? The more you learn application of wisdom, the more you can apply your wisdom. right? If you're not thinking about building houses, you're not going to consider other ways to build houses. Once you get into house building wisdom, you could the sky's the limit. Therefore, wisdom is infinite by definition. Okay, that's a long-winded introduction to what? Hollywood is consciousness, because that's all there is. And by definition, we're saying consciousness is wisdom. So when Ari Lewis is looking at his monitor, right? He's chatting on Facebook. Hi, everybody. It's awesome Ari Lewis time. Yoo-hoo, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm at my computer in Zimbabwe, right? Me and Ari Lewis, who have never met, can have the same vision of reality. For example, Ari Lewis uses a Samsung monitor Model D. And the guy in Zimbabwe, Samsung monitor Model D. It just turns out that Model D is like the newest fad, right? It's basically like the new iPod. You with me, Ari?
Yeah, new iPod. Okay.
Everyone's getting this new monitor. It does amazing things. It's awesome. And there's like signs. There's like little squiggles on the border of the monitor. And Ari's sitting there when he's not telling everybody, and he says, those squiggles look like Hebrew ancient characters to me. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. I'm not going to tell anybody because that's just crazy. Who thinks that? And the guy in Zimbabwe is like, you ever see the squiggles on the side of the monitor? I was on this website, and it looks just like ancient Hebrew characters. And so then you say, why did the Samsung team make the monitor this way? Because whatever they got into, they saw Hebrew characters, and they thought that would be great around a monitor. It's all random stuff. But your consciousness tunes into it. Then you can have people around the globe thinking the same things on the back of their mind, and it never even got vocalized or expressed. Then when Hollywood puts it to the screen, and it comes out, and maybe you never even acknowledge the thought by yourself. But Hollywood does it because it's a reality and potential. So Hollywood did this screen, now. It comes out, these characters and the Samsung screen. And 10 years from now, something happens where it turns out there's code encrypted, in these monitors or on the rim of the monitor. And everyone says, how did Hollywood know that? That's incredible. They didn't even have the technology built to decipher these squiggles. The answer is Hollywood is not a prophet. I'm making a very strange example here, but we saw it recently with Back to the Future. Let's bring it more into focus, right? Back to the Future apparently predicted the Twin Towers falling. The Cubs won the World Series. Not
close, but no cigar.
That's it. So Hollywood predicts a lot of things. Now let's go in a little deeper. There is no Hollywood. It's Robert Zemeckis, the maker of Back to the Future. Because let's just call him the guy who made Back to the Future. Agreed?
Okay, yeah. He's the brains behind it, sure.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna dramatize something for you. All right. So let's look at a lot of different dots here and try to connect them up. There's something called Mazel, correct? Ebb and flow of reality. We all know that the Cubs are going to win the World Series at some point, in theory, right? If the Boston Red Sox could do it, the Cubs could do it too. So there's this in potential. The Cubs are winning the World Series. Now, we have a natural clock, circadian clock in our bodies. A lot of times, you'll wake up exactly the time you have to wake up without an alarm. Does that ever happen to you, Ari Lewis?
Sure. Yeah, it happens all the time.
So you have a circadian clock built into your body. It's how you get tired to go to sleep every night. Every night comes, your clock says, Ari, it's 8:53 p.m., buddy. We're going to shut it down here pretty soon, okay? You say, but I'm having fun. I'm not tired yet. Dude, it's 8:53. You know how it is. You can either have a cup of coffee or you can get tired. It's up to you. Just letting you know. So therefore, there's cycles, right? There's the full moon, new moon. There's everything. The biggest wisdom in Kabbalah is called tekufot, cycles, mazel. If I don't hear from Ari Lewis for a couple of weeks, is there a good chance Ari is going to call me back? Or should I think, oh no, Ari's gone forever. What did I do wrong? What would you say, Ari Lewis?
Well, I would hope you would just call me.
But if I don't, I'm busy too.
Right.
But should I worry about you, or should I assume we'll find each other in the future?
Yeah, you would. Right. Assume that we'd find each other at some point.
So it's destined to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine all those wisdoms, all the interchanging wisdoms, all have cyclical properties. The hammer is destined to become some kind of a nutcracker. The nutcracker hammer is destined to go back to being a hammer, right?
Yeah.
Use a hammer regularly. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly a hammer, but somehow on Shabbos, right? If you're a person that has hammers laying around, I'm generalizing. You're probably the kind of guy that eats nuts on Shabbos. Otherwise, why would you have a hammer in your house? Right? If you're not so into hammers, you should borrow your neighbor's hammer. Why are you investing in a hammer? You follow my wisdom here.
Yeah.
So there's duality. There's multitasking on every possession, every article of existence. Ari Lewis is a multitasker. He is a radio host of the highly successful Messiah Hour, and he's a good friend. He's not just a radio announcer, ladies and gentlemen. And so it's multitasking. You know, we could all rely on Ari for at least 5 different things. Now, that's the broadness of personality in the psyche. Now, from that, let's go back to Robert Zemeckis. Robert Zemeckis is a human being, therefore he possesses wisdom. Every human being possesses wisdom. What real wisdom is, on the highest level, is when you can sanctify that wisdom in the holiest way possible. Moses writing the Torah. But even a crack dealer on the streets, he also has wisdom. The only difference is he doesn't know it's wisdom. Moshe Rabbeinu knows it's wisdom. Right? Everybody, there's no such thing as a waste of flesh. Everyone has a soul. Now, with that said, Robert Zemeckis is, I'm making this up. This is not true. I'm making this up. He's 25 years old in 1980, whatever, when Back to the Future came out. And everyone only knows him as, wow, you're Robert Zemeckis. You're the master movie maker. Way to go. We love you. What he doesn't tell people is he's an avid baseball fan. I love baseball. And his childhood days were spent in Chicago by his Uncle Merv. Oh, Uncle Merv used to say, oh, Bobby, the Cubbies are never going to win. Ever. And he says, you know what, Uncle Merv? I bet one day in the far future, the Cubbies are going to win the World Series. And I'm a young lad with dreams and ambitions. I want to be a pro baseball player, Uncle Merv. I'm going to bring the Cubbies to the World Series championship in the future, and I'm going to do it. He grew up. He never forgot his dream, because the ego doesn't let you forget these things. He played baseball his freshman year, and he stunk. And someone said, here, I'm not going to buy you a baseball bat. I'm going to buy you a camera. And he says, wow, I love making movies. But he never gave up on baseball. And he gets to making Back to the Future, and he says, all right, I want to do Back to the Future. And then he makes Back to the Future part, whatever, 2 or 3, whatever it was, 2. And he says, let's go to 2015. We're back in the 1980s. It's a far way away. You know how funny it would be, he says, I want to make the Cubbies win the World Series. Now, Ari, did you hear the mazel of what I just said?
Well, he's basically creating his own prophecy of something.
Ah, it's right. Yes. Now, can some kid in Australia have thought the same thing?
He can, but it's not as likely because this guy was into the Cubs.
But whatever it is, somebody out there thought the same thing.
Yeah, sure.
And they never met each other, so they never talked about it. So it comes out that there's just a concept in the creation saying on like a very subtle level, Cubbies, 2015, Cubbies. It's just a pulse. This is how you have the Torah codes have wisdom, even though they don't necessarily come exactly true. There's a concept in creation called the Cubs winning the 2015 World Series. Now, they didn't win it. So everyone will say, oh, the prophecies and the Torah codes are wrong. No, you're looking at it wrong. There's a thing called Cubbies winning 2015 World Series. Robert Zemeckis got into it because his ego got him into it. It was idolatry on a very extreme level. It was a vodazara because he gave into his ego and he said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to make it happen. And enough people conspired over the years to make it happen. Right? The Cubs were in position to finally have the GM in place and the coach and the star player. The pieces came together and they tried to win the World Series in 2015. Idiot's prophecy. Consciousness just works that way. How is it that you got an idea and you forgot all about it? And you're beating yourself up saying, man, I wish I knew what that was. Then you were driving your car 4 hours later and you saw someone's license plate that said, bread me. Stupid license plate. You said, oh, I forgot to buy the challah. Thank God for the stupid guy's license plate. How'd that happen? You were destined to see the license plate trigger the memory in your head, and that's how you remembered your thought. The world is all into idiots' prophecies. But you can't make your own prophecy. You can't read into every little thing you see and say, oh, I know it. That's already not a prophecy. That's already your wisdom, and that's false. Now, if there's social media, then you have branding, you can emanate prophecy from you. Now, do you want it in klippah and evil, or do you want it in holiness? Moses put it in holiness. Most people put it in klippah, which means they're not looking for a prophecy. They're looking for financial or material gain, right? Oh, I see Ari Lewis with his Messiah Hour t-shirt. I want him on my team so I can have a friend like that. And then I say, hey, is your name Ari Lewis? He says, yeah. I say, hey, you want to be my friend? He says, yeah, I'll be your friend. And then we become friends only so I can use him for my label called the Messiah Minute. So I made a prophecy. I said I'm going to recruit this guy, and I did. But it never came out as prophecy. It just came out as manipulation, and that's how we see most ego and social media go. Now, bring in Hollywood on the massive scale. The only difference is a corporation is always more powerful than the individual. If Ari Lewis accidentally took $5 of mine for buying an Ari Lewis Messiah Hour t-shirt, available at his website, contact him for details, versus if Walmart, they accidentally overcharged me $5. There's a better chance to get the money back from Ari than from Walmart, correct?
Yeah, especially knowing Walmart's policies.
That's right. So Walmart is powerful simply because they're huge. Ari Lewis may have strong branding, but he is not too powerful that I can't approach him. Therefore, Hollywood has the ability to put out a stronger prophecy than Ari Lewis. Right? Ashton Kutcher's Twitter account is much stronger than anybody in holiness today. Agreed?
I would say so.
Right. But if holiness were to get into Metatronic consciousness, Messiah hour stuff, then Ashton Kutcher doesn't have a chance. But that's already Moses' level. We're not there.
Ashton Kutcher, by the way, is a member of the tribe, just for those scoring at home.
Is he?
He is.
Legitimately?
As far as I know.
I know he married Mina, whatever her name is.
She's also Jewish, yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah, as far as I know.
I know he learns Kabbalah and he attends the Iowa Hawkeye wrestling matches, so good guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, with all that said, take all that on board. All of Hollywood's Michigas of Robert Zemeckis dreaming about winning the Cubs World Series. Figure everybody has an ego. Therefore, everybody is projecting these little prophecies. That's how they happen. It's called collective consciousness. So if Hollywood has collective consciousness, and they are an organization, corporation to put out a mass message. Obviously, power in the numbers. Hollywood now can produce a very tummy, clippidic, evil backside message, but a prophecy nonetheless. Because it's not their prophecy. They are vocalizing the, what do you call it, the hibernating consciousness in creation. Kind of like plucking a harp. They're strumming the harp. With that, then, you have the Sutra Achra, literally, the occult. So throw in some Illuminati images. Throw in all your little witchcraft, avodah zarah, demonic stuff. Now, why are they doing that? Because let's take another guy. His name is Bob Jones. He is the biggest director in Hollywood history. You know Bob Jones?
Not so well.
He made the movie, the Bob Jones series.
Okay, right.
And so Bob Jones, when he was a kid, he used to love to draw triangles. That's what he used to do. You know, we doodle. Everyone doodles on their pages, right? I know a guy I went to yeshiva with. He used to draw the Twin Towers on every doodle he ever did before they crashed. So Bob Jones makes triangles. Then he had this friend named Adam Jones who used to say that you should put an eyeball in everything. Because he played with the He-Man toy as a kid, Cyclops, whatever it was. Remember that toy, Ari? The one-eyed guy?
Vaguely, a little bit, yeah.
Right. So Adam Jones puts eyeballs on everything he draws. And Bob Jones saw that once when they were like 10 years old and said, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to do that too. So he started putting an eyeball in a triangle. Then he got into high school and they said, wow, are you into the Illuminati stuff? And he's like, what's that? They're like, well, you're drawing it on literally everything you do. And he's like, wow, am I a prophet? So what's the answer, Ari? Is he a prophet?
Not really. I mean, he kind of made his own prophecy.
That's it. He thought what everybody else thinks. Some people make triangles. Some people have a thing with eyeballs. It just happens to go together like lettuce, onion, tomatoes on a sandwich, right? Next thing you know, it's a seeing eye. He reads about it, and he says, I love this. I really connect to the all-seeing eye. I think I'm a secret Freemason, never even knew it. He even goes to a Freemason meeting. And they're like, well, you're an entry level, and you're this all-seeing eye. Now, he never got big into Freemasonry, this guy. He's not into that. But he's a big movie maker, the Bob Jones series. It's about this neocon, and he's trying to bring down the world powers. Right? Blah, 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 blah. And he has the all-seeing eye everywhere. Now, that's the real story of Bob Jones. What do the people on YouTube do? He's Babylonian. We think he's Gog v'Magog. We think he's the devil incarnate. I heard he beat up his wife. He's a drug addict, right? We hear all these things, right? In the end, Bob Jones has a regular life, and he fell into an imagery of the Klippa other side because he went with his ego for whatever reason. And it comes out, it looks satanic. It's the powers of satanic, but I don't think he's making child sacrifices in some temple in Babylon. So Hollywood has its dark moments, it has its bright moments, has its weird moments, but everybody has their moments. I think the same things as you, as him, as everybody. The question is how holy is it and how unholy is it? I know when I was a kid, I was doodling Jewish stars. What Jewish kid didn't? Right? It's just easy. Triangle, triangle, upside down, right side up. Jewish star, Magen David. Right? It shows you the kid in yeshiva. He was making two cubes or vertical cubes as the Twin Towers. We all doodle our subconscious. Therefore, everybody in Hollywood is doodling. So when they're doing the script and the promo, all the things they're doing, they're doodling their subconscious. You get enough people who doodle the same things or drawn by the powers of Mazel, you're going to get a very consistent blend of something. Back to the Future ended up being prophetic. Is that a surprise? They made a movie called Back to the Future. By definition, they had to be prophets to do that movie, to predict what would happen in the future. Some things they got, Some things they didn't. It's not real prophecy. Right? How is it possible in the beginning of the 20th century they knew about the New World Order and just the whole neocon age and cyber security? Because with a little bit of vision and mazel, you can predict where things are going to go. I mean, there is a level of insight, not literally prophecy, but introspection to consciousness. So here's the big thing I'm going to present now. Star Wars, let's just make a lateral move here. In the late 70s, early 80s, I saw a film on YouTube. It said Star Wars ruined the world because they brought in a template that everybody since then has been mimicking. Special effects, theology, Yoda-isms, whatever you want to say. From then on, it was just making a copy of a copy of a copy to the point where today it's all watered down, not worth a dime, and we're in the mess of this Hollywood social media vomiting type of prophecies that aren't even prophecies. It's just nothing nowadays. So a lot can be blamed on Hollywood, social media, all these things for that kind of thinking. What do you think about that, Ari Lewis Messiah?
Well, speaking of the Messiah, can Star Wars actually lead us to the Messianic era? Because there's a concept that we were speaking off air about the way you go into Galut is the way you come out. Hollywood's caused a lot of problems. Can Hollywood get us out of it?
So that's my hope. There's a concept that whatever the way it's a atonement in the Yerushalmi brachas. The way that we went into Gullus, we will come out of it the way we went in. Right? This is how Mazel works. Whatever you bring in to you, it comes out of you. We can think of a very obvious metaphor, right? Holy and not holy. So if we went into the end through Star Wars, we know there's a big Star Wars movie coming out in a couple months. I saw the trailer on YouTube, the newest one. What I noticed different about it is the most appealing movie I've ever seen, literally on the eyeball. I don't watch movies anymore really at all. I just watched The Matrix when they came out to finish what started off in 1998 or whatever it was, and I have to see Star Wars. I mean, people like. I mean, I'm sure you watched it as a kid, Ari. No?
Yes, but I wasn't into it so much. But when it came out in 1987, they had a re-release of the episode 4, 5, 6. I watched those.
You have to. It's just you're finishing off. I mean, I wasn't that into it as a kid either, but it's a cultural thing. And if they came out with a new Saved by the Bell episode, I'm gonna watch it.
I'm still thinking about that. I don't know if I would. I kind of want it to stay in its innocence. I don't know. I mean, Jimmy Fallon did a sketch on to the Tonight Show, which was very funny, but even then, Zach got Kelly pregnant, and if they made a new episode, I don't know if. Yeah.
Go on YouTube. You can see an off-Broadway group. They made from scratch their own version of a Seinfeld episode. Very worth watching.
Oh, okay.
They did a good job.
All right.
So, anyways, the bottom line is I have no time for movies, but I will watch Star Wars. Right? Certain things I watch, like Super Bowl, not every year anymore, but if I get the chance, and Star Wars, I will be watching. So, when I watched the trailer, I saw that the graphics were really incredible, which is a big statement because in the ones that you were mentioning, the last ones that came out, they were horrible. The CGI, is that what it's called? CGI?
Yeah,
yeah, it's like people make jokes about George Lucas. It's like a lightsaber now has like 20,000 extensions. I mean, it looks like a comedy act. J.J. Abrams, who was commissioned to make the new Star Wars movie, which is a big deal, simply conceptually because he resurrected the Star Trek Enterprise. There it is. What do you call that? Star Trek. What's that word?
Well, Star Trek Enterprise on the show, you could say that, yeah.
No, what do you call that? What do you call that when you have like a? I think it's called Enterprise.
Yeah.
Actually, ironically,
as far as I know.
Case in point, pun halfway intended.
Yeah.
So he brought that back to life. And now he's doing, the irony is he's doing both. He's doing Star Trek and Star Wars. So when the trailer came out, it just looked right. It didn't have the CGI feel. You can see they created a new world. You can believe that there's a world that looks like this just from the eyeball. Right? Avatar was very contrived. It was beautiful, but it wasn't real. You didn't think, wow, there really is an Avatar world. With what J.J. Abrams has shown, they really did a good job with Star Wars. And I'm saying to myself, that's how we got into this mess in the first place. The original Star Wars took Star Trek, which nobody believed was real. I mean, it was ridiculous. And they made it possible. Maybe there is life on other planets. Maybe we can develop spacecraft to get there. And then the sci-fi industry became very strong to what it is today, which eventually gave birth to The Matrix, which, to me, in my opinion, that was the greatest movie in terms of moving the masses with an ideological message. But it didn't work, right? We all teach from The Matrix. Every rabbi I know uses The Matrix to teach off of as a model. So the movie was profound, but it didn't change the world. Everyone basically forgot about The Matrix in terms of life-changing, blah, blah, blah. So we see now with Star Wars, the idea of the visual effect is so great. Just what I've seen in the trailer. I mean, I was speculating here. This is not meant to be, the real Messiah Hour prophecy. I'm an idiot's prophet like anybody else. But I'm hoping almost. We're looking for, in Ari Lewis Messiah Hour, we're looking for many things, right? We're looking for Damascus to fall. We're looking for Egypt to fall. Only in terms of the prophecy. I'm not saying I'm wishing this on anybody, but prophetically, there's certain things that we can look at and say, hey, look at that. That was a prophecy. So if we're going to look for idiot prophecies, then Star Wars is a great place to look. If we got into this mess with Star Wars' great graphics taking us into a new reality away from the old Star Trek model. Look at the idiot's prophecy I'm speaking just by accident. Right? Model Star Trek. Right? That's how they did all the graphics with models. The Star Wars made it possible to think maybe in my lifetime I could go to Mars. When you see in our lifetime, they're sending people there in the next couple of years, whatever it is, which was just a fantasy back in the days in the 60s when these things were coming out. So here's the dream. Dream is, could Star Wars be strong enough with the right idiot prophecy, right consciousness, right collective consciousness? We know the visual graphics are there. Can they make a message stronger than the Matrix that will bring us into a redemptive state or prepared state by thereby fixing that which they created with the new cult called Star Wars? Because it was a cult. They created the Hollywood cult as we know it. It is a kind of a cult just by the imagery and the type of collective consciousness, and they're not trying to be innovative thinkers anymore. It's just graphics. But if J.J. Abrams took us away from CGI and they perfected it, then what else are they going to do? Maybe per force, they have to work on the script. The concepts, just maybe, they can make a global phenomenon that would fix what they started. And the concept in Kabbalah is there to support it. The gematria for Mashiach, 358, is the same as Nachash, snake, 358.
Wait, can you elaborate a little more? 358.
Just the concept of one negates the other. If one enters the wrong way, it can come out the right way. Right? It's like we say on Purim, Nichnas Yayin Yatsa Sod.
Right.
Whatever comes in must come out. If we went into exile, we have to come out. That which brought us into exile will bring us out. We went into exile through Babylon. Therefore, Babylon will bring us out. What do the YouTubers say is Babylon? All this Illuminati imagery stuff. So what's really underneath Babylon? Just this imagery, that same consciousness. They were just in a culture addicted to it. It's even on the American dollar. Go look, it's there. So mankind was always addicted to this stuff. It's just that every empire has a different take on how they're going to cooperate, church and state. Right? The American church and state and God we trust, all-seeing eye, is just a little different than the Babylonian, the Greek, and the Roman, and everybody else. The point is, if Star Wars created the mess, like the cute part of the mess, just maybe, Star Wars could be the undoing of the acute mess. Right? Or you wanted to know, were the Cubs really predicted to win the World Series? I'm going to take it a little deeper.
Okay.
I'm not, because we were going to do a show in the end, we didn't on that. I'm not sorry that you did in the end with somebody. But the point is that don't ask, is the Cubs thing the prophecy? Ask yourself about prophecy, period. Right? Is Star Wars the Icar prophecy? Is it the prophecy maker? Is it the engine and catalyst of putting social media prophecies into creation? I.e., all movies come under the umbrella of Star Wars circa 1977. Can Star Wars then reinvent the umbrella to purify the prophecies that are inevitably going to come out through collective consciousness? You see what I'm saying? Can they make a prism, a focus that will create a consciousness and a shifted consciousness that will undo the fabric of exile? 358 versus 358. The negative forces superseded by positive forces. That's my question.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. We're talking about Star Wars, and if it relates to the Messianic era. My guest is Rabbi David Katz. Last question for you, Rabbi. We talked a little bit about consciousness. I want to know about subliminal messages in movies in general. To talk about Illuminati, they want to have a certain agenda. So therefore, can these type of messages talk about Mashiach in the Messianic era?
100%. It's the same thing. Mashiach is a consciousness of creation. So we all do subliminal things. We don't even realize it. Right? When you doodle, you can see that you're doodling your mind. So people are natural conduits or channels of energy. I'm not talking New Age stuff. Just if you analyze your actions enough, you'll realize you're governed by the hand of God. That's Mazel 101. So they did a lot of research. There's cases shown that early Walt Disney had a lot of sexual undertones in their cartoons for kids. Because the artists, obviously, that was on their mind. Now, there wasn't a kosher quality control on being a Walt Disney artist. Therefore, there's no penalty to draw sexual images in kids' cartoons. I mean, what are you going to say? Don't think that? Obviously, you shouldn't be thinking that. But at the same time, you can't, especially in the 20th century, they weren't even thinking along the lines of, is this guy's thoughts kosher or not? They wanted to know, does the guy know how to draw Mickey Mouse? So when people would where their minds were plugged into things that are not kosher, it comes out that the non-kosher stuff was in their work. And then it becomes repulsive to think about it. I mean, there's all kind of stuff on the internet like, cartoons were talking about the New World Order in the early 20th century. What kid needs to hear about New World Order? But no one was thinking about blocking that kind of influence. It's like terrorism. Nobody thought to check if the guy had liquid explosives in his shampoo bottle until they caught those guys. So all kinds of subliminal stuff come through. And usually it's not good stuff. Right? When you buy a hamburger at McDonald's, do you know what the kid is doing in the kitchen to your food?
People don't want to know.
Right? Do you know that the guy may have licked his hand before he put the meat on the bread?
If that was the worst thing that happened, people would be better off.
That's it. So you're not doing a quality control on that kid, are you? How about before you bought that new car, Ari, the guy at the store was like revving the engine, going like woohoo! Brrr. Now I wouldn't want that car. Chances are the guy popped the engine. You'll never know. Right? So why would you hire a guy who goes on joyrides? Because we don't have quality control, Ari, to check for joyriders when we hire at Chevrolet Motors. Every industry has this problem. Therefore, the subliminals in everything we have. So, let's say Chevrolet has the mazel to hire joyriders. Why else would you work for a car company? Obviously, you love cars. So everyone says, hey, Chevrolet is a great car. But how come the engines always pop? It's always the thing that goes. Did you ever think maybe because you hire joyriders? Well, Toyota doesn't have that problem. No, Toyota has a mazel that they have a hubcap problem. Because their employees are all shady and they have hubcap issues. Whatever it is, there's mazel. We're not talking about cliche. We're not talking stereotype. There's mazel. Are there good people hanging out in dark alleys?
There can be, sure.
But probably not according to the cliche.
Not most likely.
Right. Because the mazel is dark alleys, shady people. That's who hangs out in a dark alley. Right? Who hangs out at a vegan restaurant?
Hippies.
Yeah, why? Because that's part of their lifestyle. Right? You probably wouldn't see a guy with a big red shirt saying, feed me more meat.
Well, unless it's me.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with cliche. It's just mazel associations. So therefore, everything, we say that in consciousness and wisdom and creation, all these things have, like the hammer with multiple usages, right? Therefore, everything, like the hammer that can be used as a hammer and as a nutcracker on Shabbos, right? There's a certain type of hammer in the energy. Is it possible that there's a guy in the world that says, I'm not going to use that hammer because there are people that are Jewish using it on Shabbos? Meaning, if there's a hammer that can be doubled for usage in the regular way and for Shabbos usage, by the laws of Mazel, it is impossible that an anti-Semite would use that hammer. Just like I would never buy a shirt that says, welcome all Nazis here. It's impossible me and you would wear that shirt, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore, there are schools and families of concepts. So the hammer that Jewish people use to crack nuts on Shabbos, non-Jewish people that use that hammer, they are not against you using that hammer on Shabbos to crack open nuts. They might not know that. They might never have thought of that. They may not be able to articulate that. But in their consciousness, somewhere, they agree. Because if they didn't agree, they would have bought a different hammer that has no relevancy whatsoever to breaking nuts open on Shabbos. Because the Jew that buys a hammer to crack open nuts on Shabbos is looking for the type of hammer that his friends wouldn't freak out at him for using a hammer on Shabbos to crack open nuts. Very deep mazel wisdom. Now, I'm not speaking with clear definition here. There's always shades of gray. The bottom line is that birds of a feather flock together. And you'll be surprised how deep that runs in mazel circles. Right? I'm sure, in Jerusalem, you, Ari Lewis, you can look at your circle of friends and you can kind of gain a perspective of what you attract. Your personal orbital in your world has a theme, a consistency to it. That's your ruach. Right? If there's a you, then there's the wisdom of Ari, the ruach that contains all of you. That's what I am in your life. Everything has that. Chevrolet, Toyota, Star Wars, Back to the Future. So if Ari Lewis is a clever chap, he can tap into the collective consciousness of his network of people that associate with him through the Messiah Hour. You would find a consistency and a collective consciousness. That's called the Ari Lewis Messiah Hour radio show. If you look at Ari's videos on YouTube, you'll see a very consistent blend of Ari. It just means that there's method to his madness. You can see who he is. And again, I guess I'll close on that note. That's called branding. That is the Ari Lewis brand of Messiah Hour. The more you take that up in your soul and spirit and emanate it, you can change the world. Maybe even bring the Messiah, Ari Lewis.
Well, it's part of the goal. Well, actually, the goal of this show more is just to talk about if there's prophecies of Mashiach in daily world events. And Rabbi Katz certainly made his argument regarding the new Star Wars film. Again, this is another episode of the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Email messiahhour@gmail.com, and the PayPal is israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Again, israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Rabbi Katz has been my guest this day. Thank you for being on the program, Rabbi. Great job as always.
Thanks for having me back, Ari, and the Force is with you. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And you can check out the Rabbi's websites, geargear.com and somazal.com. And the Rabbi's book, he co-authored the book, The World of the Ger. So you can purchase that book on geargear.com. All right, everyone, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Be well. And again, messiahhour@gmail.com. And shalom from Israel.